Hello, everyone. It's Justine, and I couldn't figure out an easy techie, non-techie way to put my face on the screen, so I apologize. We're just getting the desktop here just because, you don't fix a broken system. So we are live. Just imagine I'm sitting here smiling at you and not huffing and puffing because my belly's in the way when I'm crafting these days. All right, so we are going to be creating together, and I'm going to let everybody kind of follow in here for a moment. If you are watching on the replay, wait until the 2-minute mark and then just skip ahead so that, we allow people to come in and you don't have to waste your time sitting here waiting for me to start. At the 2-minute mark, we will go over kind of the supplies I'm going to be using. And yeah, hopefully that works well for everyone. Okay. So what we're going to do, I welcome everyone, and I can see people. Are you planning to craft along? I would love to know if anybody's crafting along with me today. I'm just going to fix my quality on my screen. 1 second. Okay. Yeah, so if you're crafting along with me, I will do my best to, go slow enough for you and keep everything at a good pace. And so if you aren't crafting along with me, I would suggest potentially just, organizing some stamps as you're going, because it can get a little bit boring sometimes when you're watching someone live and something takes a little bit longer and you're not crafting along with them. So I do hope that everyone's going to craft along with me, but if you're one of the people that likes to watch first, maybe having something kind of to do on the side, even making some sentiments or something might be a good idea, so you don't get bored. I know I get bored sometimes. All right. So let's get started. All right. So what we're going to be doing, and we are going to be working on the masking technique in all 3 classes this weekend. So what that means is we're going to be building on the techniques. We're going to start off relatively simple today, and we are going to then up our game kind of as the days go by so that you have a good amount of skills when it comes to the masking technique. And the masking technique I chose because it's pretty supply friendly. So today we are going to be using, I'm going to just use some masking tape. I have here 1/2 inch and 1 inch tape. I don't know if I'm going to use both, but it's more or less here so that I don't get ink all over my cardstock. We're going to use some white cardstock, just plain A2 size cardstock, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Which I put in the supply list that was sent out to you. We are going to be using some masking paper. I just have a bunch of scraps here of masking paper that I'm going to use instead of a full sheet because I'm running low on masking paper. I'm going to be using a stamp today, and I'm going to be using, I put in the supply list to bring a stamp that you can color, meaning that it doesn't mean that we're coloring it today, but we want white space. Okay, so we don't want something like text or like a single line image. We want areas that you can color so that we can mask them off and this ends up being white on the card. Okay. So you want something like a flower. You could do like a critter. Most objects in my last masking class, I did like a lantern, those types of things. And it doesn't matter which one you pick. So don't feel like you need to have a flower because I'm using a flower. Just as long as it's something you can color in, it doesn't matter. Someone's saying that I'm blurry. And I'm not sure if I am or not. I hope not. Because I can't switch. If I switch Wi-Fi's right now, it's going to boot me out and then we're going to need a new link and it's going to be a disaster. So we don't want that. But if I am blurry, if anybody can comment and let me know if I'm blurry. It's blurry for you too. Okay.
Blurry. You're a bit blurry, but
Laurel,
not
can you
enough.
put yourself on the screen for a second? And then I'm just gonna, if you take me off for a sec, I'm gonna just switch my Wi-Fi's.
Hi, all. How's it going? Hope you're enjoying the summit a bit. let's let her do her thing in the back end before it's good it happened before she started her project. So she's still going over things. So sometimes Wi-Fi can be so fidgety unless you're like manually plugged into like your main frame doodad, which for me is down in the basement in a closet. And I would not feel very creative if I had to go plug in a little closet. Okay, she's giving me that thumbs up, so we're going to come back and see if she's blurry. So let's cross our fingers, eyes and legs, and let's do this.
All right. So I'm hoping everything is okay and that it's a little bit better at least. It looks better on my screen, so I'm hoping that that solves everything. Perfect. All right, we're all good to go then. Awesome. Okay, so as I said, we're going to be using some white cardstock. We're going to use some masking tape and masking paper. And if you don't have masking paper or masking tape, use Post-it notes or copy paper. I can show you how to do that if need be. A stamp set that we can color. Like I said before, you don't need to have a flower like I'm using, but you're welcome to use a flower, obviously. Critters, objects, things like that are fine. Anything you can color that has a good white space, that's not a pain in the butt to fussy cut. You don't want anything super, super crazy detailed. Optional, I said before, you can grab like a background stamp of some sort, like a script or a geometric pattern would look probably best, but you don't have to. 3 inks, and we sent out the supply list before, so I'm hoping none of this is new and it's just a review. I'm using a light, medium, and dark color in the Park Mardi Gras and Bay Breeze. You're welcome to also use anything that blends nicely together, and feel free to use the same colors the whole weekend so you're taking some of the thought process out. Lastly, blending tool of any kind. It could be a brush, it could be a dauber, it could be anything. Some scissors to fussy cut, and paper trimmer if you haven't trimmed your panels to A2 size. That's all we need. So it's pretty simple, basic supplies that we're going to be using today. So let us get started. So I hope you are going to craft along with me if you can, if you're not sitting at work or anything like that. Give it a try. And I always tell people when you're taking a class, this isn't a test and this isn't an exam. So what we're doing right now is we're learning something new and we're practicing. So it's best to go in with the mentality of, I don't know if this is going to turn into anything. I'm just practicing right now. Okay, so what we're going to do is just go in with no expectations. We're going to follow along, and that way you can kind of take the pressure off yourself. And yeah, so that, you know, if it doesn't turn out the way as expected, you're still just learning the technique, right? And this is such a wonderful technique because it's pretty easy to do. And it's very beginner friendly in the sense of supplies, but it usually turns out really great. So I'm cutting myself an A2 size card panel. So that means that it's 5.5 or 4.25 by 5.5 inches. 4.25 by 5.5 inches. And I'm going to just set that off to the side. And just so that I'm prepared for later, and I got my paper trimmer out already, I might as well cut my card base while I'm here. Okay, I would recommend using white cardstock for this technique and not colored cardstock because it gives you the most contrast and the most like beautiful look in my opinion. But the technique can be applied to colored cardstock. I think it looks best on white. So to make my card base, I'm going to do it the way that shows you the least amount of steps and properly. What I personally do, I always create side folding cards. I always find that when I do top folding cards, whenever I go to someone's house after, they're like sloped in a weird way. And I stopped making top folding cards after I saw that. It didn't matter if I was using 110 or 80 pound, it still did that. So I always create side folding cards now. So I have my paper lined up on the short side at 4.25 inches. I'm just going to use my scoring tool here to score the line. And then I'm just going to turn it to the long side, place it at 5.5 inches and cut once. And that gives me 2 card bases. Then I can use the other one in tomorrow's class. Okay, so just a little overview in case anybody's beginner here. I know we did get a couple of emails so far saying there's a few people that are right at the start of their card making journey. So I like to go over every step, even though it might be boring for some of us people who have been card making for a billion years. All right, in the meantime, I am going to fold my card base, just again, prepping that for later, using a bone folder to get a nice crisp fold. And I'm just going to set that off to the side for later. Probably end up losing it at some point while I'm crafting because, you know, that's how things go. All right, so I have a panel to work on. I've got a backup panel in case I mess up because it's alive. It's guaranteed to happen. And we're going to get started, okay? So for this particular technique, you are welcome to use any sort of pattern you want that you can create with some tape. So this is going to be fun. And it's meant to be fun and not stressful. I'm going to grab a piece of tape. I'm just going to place it down here. I'm just going to create myself a little pattern. Maybe we'll go like this. And I'm using the thin washi tape or the thin repositionable tape right now because I'm not sure. I might create a couple of areas. Sure, why not? Let's do things fun. All right, I'm going to place tape down as so. You are very welcome to only place this large area here and nothing else. You're welcome to do a straight across strip, a strip up and down, one diagonal strip. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to have a little bit of fun with the design and do something that isn't just my usual standard, okay? Just wanted to show you this. This is what I created in my VIP class this month, for example. And this is what I used using torn paper instead of tape so that I didn't have, like I just used copy paper and I just ripped it. And we're going to do a similar technique to this, but a little bit more complex because that's very super basic. All right. Now, the only thing, so I'm going to have, when the card is finished, color here and color on these two strips. I do not want color on this area and I do not want color up top. So I'm masking that off. And I'm foolproofing myself by masking off everything so I don't accidentally blend anywhere I should. And the masking tape is now going to protect all of those areas for me. Okay, so only color is going to end up here, here, and here. All right, so I'll let everybody tape while they're doing their tapes. Like I said, you could do it in any direction you want. The technique's going to be the same. I'm going to grab my stamp. It's a brand new stamp. Okay. Oh, I did forget to write that I do need a black ink pad. So I hope everyone does have one within arm's reach. You should, if you're a card maker, have a black ink pad in arm's reach. But just in case, give yourself a second to dig that out. And what I'm going to do, there we go, sticky stamp. This image here isn't too difficult to, it's not very difficult to fussy cut. It's not too intricate. It's not too bad. Gonna grab myself, like you need something to stamp with, obviously. I'm just gonna grab a block, live on the edge and not use a Misty today. I'll probably regret it. I usually do. And I'm gonna stamp my image. So you could use a variety of images or you can just use one image. Both is fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stamp randomly on these white areas. I am going to overlap the tape. It is up to you whether or not you want to overlap. Like if I want to put it here where it overlaps into two white areas, that's a design perspective. Both will look fine. But I think I am going to do that. Stamp a little bit randomly here and there. I like the rule of threes, so I think things look best when they're stamped in threes or in odd numbers, personally. And as many times as I stamped that on my card, I'm going to stamp that on my masking paper, and I'm going to need to cut that out. This might be a little fussy for some, but it's such a great result. It's so pretty when it's done that it's so worth it. I don't know why I just overlapped my flower there by accident. That's not what I wanted to do. All right, so I'll stamp myself another one. I am going to use the other stamp as well that's in this set, this other flower that's a little bit larger. I'm not going to use the whole stamp though. I think what I'm going to do, just because I don't really want the stem, I'm just going to add a piece of tape right there. So when I'm stamping, I'll just partially stamp this, not stamping the stem, take off that tape, and that way the stem is not stamped and inked up. And let's see if I can fit this on here. Should be able to. Might be a little closer. Oh, lovely. Okay. You know what? That is what happens. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and fix my mistakes because this happens in real life when you drop things. This is why I said I should use my nesting. I'm going to grab my sandpaper eraser. I'm going to try and erase a little bit of that anyway that kind of got in there. I really don't think it's going to be a big deal. It's not going to erase everything, but it's going to fade it a little bit. And that's all that really matters because we're going to ink blend over top. So hopefully it'll cover it enough that it's not a big deal. Things happen. All right. And then I'm going to stamp this up here. This is why stamping tools are a godsend and a game changer. Because things like that don't happen. All right, all done. So same thing as before, I'm going to grab masking paper. My masking paper is only die cut like this because they're scraps, so they don't need to be any fancy shapes or anything. I'm just going to stamp this 3 times. And then we're going to fussy cut. And if anybody, and that's a really great time to catch up on anything while I'm fussy cutting, or if you have any questions, by all means, ask away. Super happy to answer. Okay. Because this can get a little tedious, so like I said, if you want to organize some stamps, if you're not crafting along, this might get a bit boring. For me, when I am cutting the mask, I like it is nice. Like if you're a beginner and you're trying this for the first time, or you're trying this at a future date, having something with really thick lines like this is really forgiving. And because what you're trying to do is you're trying to cut on the line, essentially. As long as you're cutting on the line, then it's going to create a really great mask. The other thing is when you are cutting, you can see that my hand stays at the bottom of the screen because I don't really move my hand when I'm cutting. I move the paper when I'm cutting. This helps me be a lot more accurate and precise, and it saves my hand from being in uncomfortable positions. If you have any hand issues, that probably will help you. I feel like I was saying this in my last class the other day. Nobody teaches how to use scissors these days anymore. Not a lot of people know that. It's better to just move the paper and not your hand. All right. So I'm cutting right on the line. And you can see it took me literally 20 seconds-ish to cut one of these out. So it's not a very intricate design. You get faster at it the more you practice too. I don't mind cutting out intricate designs now and again, to be honest. And why am I not using the coordinating die cut? Well, first of all, I don't have one for this set.
I am back.
It usually leaves a white margin around the stamp, like 1 or 2 millimeters of white. And that is going to make your card not look right. I don't hear you. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're breaking up a lot.
Okay.
Let's see if it's any better.
Yeah, it's coming through my phone like that too.
Yeah, I'm going to put you back behind stage and see if you can maybe go back to your other Wi-Fi.
No.
Because I can't hear you. Hi, everybody. We're back. We're taking an intermission between they call it fussy cutting. Fussy cutting. What do y'all call it? But while she figures things out. So if you don't know, she is actually in Germany. And it's the afternoon where she is, and it's the morning where I am. I'm just having coffee. And I was walking by, and I'm like, all I hear is, so I'm like, all right, so we're going to figure this out. We're going to figure this out together while she figures it out. Yeah, other people don't like the terminology fussy cutting. Yes, I like the not my favorite cutting. I'm into that. Yeah. Yeah. But either way, you're cutting. If you had a die cut, you could use dies. Those look like they're fairly easy to cut, at least. But I remember when my oldest son, so way back when he was in preschool, I signed up to be a room mom, and the teacher would give me all of these cutting tasks, and I figured out why, because eventually my thumbs were just like bruised from where the scissor hits from the constant cutting. I'm like, yeah, I'm not into that. Then I remember I bought, yes, I have a Cricut as well too, Loretta. So then I bought the Scan and Cut, the Brothers Scan and Cut, and I was like, oh, I can just scan, whatever, but it never worked right. So I got rid of that. Now I just have a Cricut, and then I am I breaking up too? Can someone let me know if I'm breaking up as well? I'll wait for some comments to come in. Justine's giving me the thumbs up. So I am not breaking up. Okay. So my sound is fine. We're going to add Justine back to the stage, and let's see if it's better. My cutting story is over.
All right. So, I hope that the sound is better. Mine was getting all staticky too, and I don't know why that is. I'm on the good Wi-Fi, so not too sure. The only thing is I can't no longer see myself. So Laurel, if I end up off screen, you're gonna have to kind of pop in and let me know. I closed down the live stream on my computer, so I can't see anymore, to hopefully improve the Wi-Fi connection if that's what the issue was. All right, so we're just cutting out. I was talking before about moving your hand versus the paper, or moving your paper versus your hand while you're fussy cutting. Be sure to cut right on the line. And there we go. Then there shouldn't be any issues. And just go slow. This is something like if I were to be crafting personally on my own and not live on a camera. Oh, that was the one that I off stamped. I would probably take this in front of the TV and cut it out, and like in the evenings, and then go back to my card later. That's just something that I personally do, and I have to do a lot of these. Is I will cut in front of the TV or put on a nice podcast or something like that. Something relaxing, especially if fussy cutting stresses you out. It doesn't need to be perfect. You'll be okay if it's not perfect. And if you can't keep up with the fussy cutting while we're doing this, no worries. You can always come back and watch the replay at any time. And I believe on a YouTube live, you can pause the YouTube live, I think. So you can pause it kind of when I move on if you're not finished yet, and then just continue watching when you're ready. You might miss out a little bit on the live chat, but other than that, you're not missing out on anything. Okay, so we're moving on now to the large flowers. And one stamp set should be good enough for today. We don't have a huge area that we're stamping on, so we're not creating a scene or anything like that. So I wouldn't recommend like mixing and matching a ton of different stamps and making your life complicated. We're going to go into that in the next couple live classes, like how to mix different stamp sets together, and so that you can get really unique scenes, and how to do that. Okay. So yeah, I can't see the live chat anymore anyway, either, Laurel. Just in case there are any questions, you can just shout them out while I'm doing this, but you'll have to put yourself, I think, on the screen when you ask, I think, because I can't see. Okay. So continuing on. Hope everyone's excited for a summit weekend. Like, I love summit weekends when I get to just plan just crafting all weekend and making some cards. And generally, when I do summits, like, I even watch our own summits on my off time when I can, when my son isn't, needing me. I love to, if I have some time to myself, to go in and watch a video and then go and directly make something and then go on to the next video. Just so, like, when the summit is over, I feel like, oh, I've accomplished something. After this weekend of watching all these videos, I have 5 or 6 cards done, or try and go to the open crop that's tomorrow night, and then you can kind of chat and craft along with some of the fellow attendees. I think it's so much fun being a part of, like, the community aspect of summits. I enjoy that almost as much as I enjoy the videos, or well, nearly more probably. It's because I would say sometimes living abroad, you get a little lonely. So I like the social aspect of it. I was saying, I'm like, I wish I could find someone in my town who card makes too. That would be nice. All right. So we're getting towards the end. I've got this last flower to cut out, and then we can move on to the rest of the techniques. Just gonna check the time, half hour to go. We should be good to go. I always try to finish within the hour because the next Q&A is up after this. So I wanna make sure I finish in time. Okay, all right. Sometimes I just like to do a scan on my desk too and just be like, okay, is there anything I can put away in the meantime? Just so, you don't get too overwhelmed on your desk. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my masks and I'm going to cover the stamps that I stamped already on my card. And this is one of those techniques where you got to kind of trust the process. The reveal is going to be crazy cool, but you don't really know what's going on until that happens. And that can be a little scary when you're crafting, to just kind of let go and trust, especially if you're crafting along with me right now and you're like, okay, I don't know what this is going to look like at the end. She didn't show me. I wanted to kind of explain why. While I'm putting these on, I might as well. So I'm a Montessori teacher, for those of you who don't know that I'm a teacher. So I'm a regular school teacher and a Montessori teacher now. And one of the things they tell us in Montessori is that when you're like, if you're going to create an art project with the kids, if you create an example for them to follow, they're just going to kind of copy you. And it's not their ideas and it's not their creativity. And they kind of end up creating based on what you expect them to do. And they're not creating for themselves. And so this is why when I do my live classes, even in my VIP group, I don't usually provide an example. I tell you what supplies to bring so that you don't feel like, oh, I don't have the same stamp as she does, so I can't participate. And we just kind of trust the process and trust that there is a chance it might not turn out, but at the end of the day, it's a piece of paper. It's going to be just fine. And we probably learned something along the way. So if at the end of the day, our card doesn't turn out the way we expected or the way we wanted, we still know what went wrong, what to do differently next time, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. Like, I could have easily started over again after I dropped my stamp and gotten frustrated. But we're just going to keep going. And trust the process. So that's why I put a little bit of a vague supply list out there, because I do want you to use your own stash. I do want you to use the supplies that you already have, because they're probably fantastic supplies. There's a reason why you bought them. All right, so I'm going to kind of give them a pat down, make sure that they're on there. If you're using Post-it notes instead of masking paper, try to use one of the sticky areas to help put it down, or you can just use a piece of like repositionable adhesive to kind of put it down, or a piece of washi tape anyway to kind of make it stick, and that works too. Copy paper will work too. Label paper works. All kinds of things. Just need to make sure it kind of stays in place. You can even hold it with your finger while it stays in place. That works too. I've done that many a time. Okay, so I am going to now, I'm going to take my lightest color first, and I'm going to start some ink blending over top, and everything that is covered by tape or paper is going to be protected in the end. Okay, so that's really, really cool. I'm going to start in the center. So I started very, very softly, hardly no pressure on my hand because I don't want any harsh lines. And I'm going to actually go over the entire white area with this color because it's my lightest color. And this is the best part because it doesn't matter if you mess this up, because you're going to go over top with the darker and the medium colors anyway. So you can kind of buff out any areas that turned out maybe not the way that you wanted. And if you only have one ink pad, it's totally fine. You'll just stop after this step and have a solid inked up background. It's going to be also very beautiful. Okay. Next up, I'm going to grab a bit of a medium shade, and I'm going to go like on top of my flowers and just kind of work slightly outside the edges and darken up around the flower, I think is how I'm going to do it. You're welcome to just put like light, medium, dark and blend them together. You don't have to put a whole lot of thought into this if you don't want to. What I'm attempting to do in my brain is to kind of add a little bit of shading where it's like darker under the flower to kind of make them pop a little bit. Is kind of my idea, but we'll see how it turns out. That's one thing that's cool about masking. You don't know until you lift. You don't know till you're more or less done. Can be scary. All right, and now I'm going to go in with my darkest color. I'm going to be careful with this one. Just go ever so slightly. This might even be an ink pad that needs a bit of re-inking. I'm just trying to see if there's enough of a contrast there. I think so. This, I'm just going over the edges. And that way I don't have such a flat background either, like just one color would be a little bit on the flatter side. It's going to give me a little bit of more dynamic look. So I got these really light spots on the area that are farthest away from the flowers. Should be fun, I'm thinking. All right, so now we're gonna have a big reveal, or don't lift up anything yet. What you could also do, if you want to, is you could use this background stamp and stamp over the card in white ink, in black ink. Both I think would look great. You could also use a stencil if you wanted to add a little bit more into the background, a little bit more detail. I think what I'm going to do is I could use black, but my lines here are very dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take maybe the darkest color here, and I always go in and clean my stamp before I stamp. And the reason why is because I'm really terrible at cleaning my stamps. So I don't know if that white ink on there is stained or if it is white ink on there. So I like to just go in and give it a little pat down. It looks like it's probably just stained though. I just don't want to get the white ink necessarily on there. Just gonna look and see which way this goes, that way. I'm not gonna stamp the whole thing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna Just kind of stamp little areas. Again, I like odd numbers, so I just did it 3 times. I think I'm going to do 5. So I'm not doing the whole thing so that it's overwhelming. Just kind of stamping. That might not have even done anything, but that's okay. Just kind of stamping, just adding some more interest. This is totally optional, as I said before. But I think it's going to look nice and just add a little bit of texture to it. And you can really do anything, like I said, at this point. You can ink some paste over top through a stencil, all kinds of things. All right, let's start lifting up this mask slowly but surely. What I like to do when I'm lifting up masks, I like to stay close to the masking paper, and I like to peel really close to the, like I don't like to just lift up and then just lift the whole thing from this petal. I like to kind of guide it along, my finger really close to the area where it's actually coming off. And I find that that helps if my paper was going to rip because it got super saturated from the ink or something. That kind of prevents that from happening. And you can save these masks for another project. There's only so often you can use one of these. Like eventually the ink will get through them and saturate and go through the actual paper. But you can see here that's not happening. I can probably do this 3 or 4 times. So sometimes I like to save the masks and I will place them on top of this carrier sheet. And then I can use them at a future date if I want to. Then I don't have to fussy cut. All right. So that's my flowers. Doesn't probably look like a whole lot right now. And let's continue with the tape. And this tape I can reuse a bunch of times still. So I'm going to leave that at the bottom of my craft mat because I could probably use it for tomorrow's class. And this is where all the fun happens. So, what do we think? This is going to be a good time if you look at your fingers to see if you have inky fingers to go wash your hands. I don't have a sink in my room, so I'm not going to do that, but I just sprayed them with some water and I'm going to wipe them on my pants, which my mama always told me not to do. And because you don't want to touch this and then get ink on it, right? That's not something we want to do for sure. So I'm just going to, again, just protect my surface a little bit here. And got all my masks here. And now all we need really is a sentiment and if you want to embellish at all, like let's say you want to add some sequins or some jewels or anything like that, you can do that. Nothing's stopping you. I know I didn't tell you to bring any of that, but that's stuff you can add on later or just reach for now. I was looking at the stamp set to see which one I'm going to use, and this one's too big. Fill your life with color and live in the rainbow. I don't know. I don't feel like I would ever give that card to someone. So just gonna reach for a different set here and just kind of look for something that might work. This looks like, why not? Okay, let's grab this. This is a nice small sentiment, so let's do a thanks a bunch. I do need some thank you cards anyway. Okay, and again, something I'm probably going to regret not using my Misty, but I didn't tell you to bring one, so I don't want to use one. Hold your breath. That's what I do. Okay. Kind of like this. There's also like a hugs and closed on this, and I kind of like that too. I think I might stamp 2 sentiments. Why not? Why not? Why not? I don't ever bother putting them like straight on my block. I just kind of estimate and go by that. I never found that helpful. All right. Push that up. And there we go. Our technique is done. You can barely tell that I dropped it, so I'm going to try and hold it up to the camera. There is a little bit of a line there. Again, not the end of the world. If I were to try and go and fix this, I would grab what's called a Posca white paint pen. This is sometimes my best bet. So it's a paint pen. It's one of those ones where you push on it to let the liquid go. So I like to do that on a separate sheet of paper, just so I don't like to push when I'm working on my project, because obviously you might get a blob or something that comes out of it. And then I would go over and color on top of the areas that kind of, did that. And this is one of those things where, because it's paint, if you let it dry and you go and let's say it's not completely gone, that color, like let's say some of it's still coming through, if you let it sit and dry and then you go over it a second time, then you probably will get rid of anything that like shadowing that might come through. But this is actually working pretty good right now. So this is one of my favorite things. I think it's way better than having a gel pen. Posca, Posca. And it fixes a lot of my mistakes. And anytime I'm using, like in a coloring class or anything, and I need a white gel pen, if you ever take Elise's classes from Kit and Cloud or anything, you need a white gel pen a lot of the times. This is what I use, and I really like it. I find it better. All right. And now you can see it does have a tiny bit of texture, that white paint, but you really won't notice it. I can't fix that one, obviously, but it just kind of looks like it's part of the background, so that's okay. All right, so hopefully everyone likes their result that they got from lifting their mask, and it was a nice surprise when you lifted your mask. I always think it's super fun, a super fun technique. If you're someone that prefers a frame around their card, you're welcome to cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4 or 3 3/4 by 5 or whatever it is that you want. I'm just going to leave it as is on my card base and glue that down. And like I said, you can embellish however you want, if you want. Nobody's saying you have to. Like these little pearls might be nice. We're gonna add some on, why not? Okay, so I'm gonna do something a little unconventional because my glue is clogged. And I'm going to just take some glue and just kind of place it down with this thingy. I'll put one there, and I think that's a good spot where it's kind of got a little bit of white space. Maybe right there. Right there. I try and make a triangle generally when I do this, and I start with 3, and I will work my way up as I go. And if I don't like it, I can just tap it off with one of my cloths and use an adhesive eraser to take that off, but it should be fine. This one's such a big one, it doesn't even pick up with my tool. How is it that when you dump these out, like half the time, they're never the right way? Anybody else have that issue? I have it all the time. I'm sure I'm not alone. Okay, I like it. Do I need more? I don't know. I think it's fine the way it is. I don't know. With or without the embellishments, I think both look fine, actually. So that's the end of today's class. So I hope you enjoyed. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But Laurel's going to have to pop on the screen and read them out to me because I won't be able to hear her if she's backstage. I'm happy to answer. But other than that, class dismissed, if not.
Okay, everyone, that's great. Everybody loves your project. They're very happy. Beautiful colors.
My
Card
apologies
turned
for
out,
the sound issue. I'm not really sure what happened there.
except for that, but we made it work. So yay. So that completes our live class number 1. There are 2 more with Justine throughout the rest of the weekend. Next up on the schedule today is our live Q&A with Wendy Lee. She's at 11 o'clock. So if you have time, make sure you watch her presentation before going to her live Q&A so you can ask questions about her projects. So until next time, we'll see you in a bit. I hope you're enjoying our first day of the summit. Bye.